themselves, I first have to make sure that I'm my best, and that means I have to continue to grow. And one of the growth areas for me that gets at that is the difference between two words, because we love new words and beautiful words. Transformation is a beautiful word that we started using maybe in the last 7, 8 years. Transformation, transformation, transformation. And so when people talk to me about change, sometimes they mean transformation, sometimes they mean change. And the distinction is that you can change something in a moment. You can change your mind. You can, change the way you do something today. But when you talk about transforming your life and you want to create a lifestyle, transformation is really sustained change, that it is over time and it is up and down, the process and up and down, but you're looking at something out here that you want for your life, and what is the transformational process to get there. So helping people really get clear, do they want to change something or do they want to transform their lives? So that's one place. Then, many times, people have a hard time getting started because they think it's an all or none. I want to do this, and so they want to do everything at once. And so they get started, and they got all this stuff, and they don't quite know which one to get started with. And there are two things that I know works. It works for me, and it works for the many people I work with, is getting people to settle down, to be gentle with themselves, and just take one step. Start with one baby step. And begin to help them prioritize as we look at what step comes next and how do the steps build on themselves. So getting people to just get started. One of my mentors, Paul Martinelli, will talk about we're always getting ready. We're always getting ready, but at what point do you cross the line of intention? We have an intention, we're getting ready. Now, how do we help people to cross the line to get started? It just takes one step to get started, not all of the steps. So that's one of the things. Helping people prioritize is another. And then the biggest thing that holds us back is fear, and fear that it's not going to work, and fear that we're going to fail. And I've been working a lot with people around shifting their perspective about failure. Again, we were raised, you don't get an F in school. Failure was just not an option. Many of us were raised that failure was bad. Trying to get people to shift their perspective around failure is good and failure is necessary, because if you don't take the risk, fail, you don't know what to improve. How can you improve on something that hasn't worked? So failure is necessary, and I heard someone say failure is the price we pay for success. So this working with people around failure, if you can get comfortable with that and get that perspective, when your friends and other people are saying that won't work, once you start shifting your perspective and get comfortable with what it is you believe about yourself, not being afraid, because that like most things, we take risk. I fail at a lot of things. But that doesn't mean I don't take risk, because every now and then one of those things I try, Gloria, works. You know, but if I get scared because I failed and I stop, I won't get to where it is that I say I'm going.
Yes.
So I think failure and prioritizing and just getting started. And then one more thing on that I heard, and I'm taking a course that they talked about the 5 mistakes we make when we're setting a goal. And there were a couple that stood out. But for this particular discussion, the one mistake we make is we make goals on what it is we know how to do. And the instructor said, okay, if you do that, hear this, that we don't know how to do anything until we do it. We didn't know how to tie our shoes until we did it. We didn't know how to drive a car until we did it. We didn't know how to walk until we did it. So this idea of I can't do that because I really want to do that, but I don't know how to do that. Well, it doesn't matter. Do you want to do it? Then if you really, really, if that's your dream and you really want to do it and you can suspend your requirement, you can suspend your requirement that you need to know, and we can work from there, then the questions become, what do we need to do so that you can know? Do you need to call someone? Do you need to get a mentor? Do you need to go back to school? If this is what you really want to do and the only thing holding you back is you don't know how to do it, it's those kind of things, Gloria, that help people step outside of these fears and the things that all of us, you know, we have a comfort zone. And really getting people to take risk and dealing with failure are two of the biggest, and just stepping out there.
Yeah, well, I love how you talk about fear and the fear of failure and helping people shift their perspective that fear is not something to be feared. It really is something to be embraced, that failure is necessary in order to go forward, in order to learn, right? And that's a big thing for people. So I just want to put a pin on that because you're just dropping gold nuggets, Lonnetta. So thank you. So I have a question for you. Earlier, you talked about your work with the next generation, the 30-somethings, the 40-somethings, the 50-somethings, and I'd love to hear more about your work with that next generation. So can you tell us just a little bit about what you're doing and specifically what was the catalyst that helped you realize that focusing on that particular group was your passion?
Well, I think a number of things, and the next generation really, if I could couch my purpose around that, and if we get asked about what's your niche and who do you work with, and certainly I work with everyone, but the next generation, people in their 20s and 30s and 40s, and the older I get, Gloria, the next generation, for me, gets older as well.
Yeah.
And what started me with the next generation, I can go all the way back again to my childhood. So I'm looking at those who were coming behind me. Then I go to school, and I'm in education, and I'm teaching high school as I look at my life. And then I get into child and family services, and I'm running a group home for girls in foster care, still working with these young people who all, if they had an opportunity, if they had someone who could sort of forget about this thing that there's a generation gap, it's there, but how do we close the gap? And how do we offer opportunities, help them to understand that we're listening to them? That's one way to get them to understand. And so I've always worked with young people, and I've always enjoyed them for a couple of reasons. One is they help keep me young, and it sort of fits with me and my siblings. You know, we're young at heart. My dad was young at heart, so that is a part of it. And so I adore young people, so I'll start there. A couple of specific things that then were true catalysts. My nephew, who's 31 years old now, he was my first coaching client, and he was able to challenge me much like my siblings did. I was the developer, and I was the oldest, but they taught me how to laugh at myself, and I trusted them, so they taught me and would challenge me, especially my nephew, who I'd get to going, and he'd say, but you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. And as I continued to grow with him, listening to him, him listening to me and building that trust, he absolutely was one of my greatest influencers, I think, out of the next generation, and he's right there near and dear to me. In my role at the university when I was running a training center, I was there 17 years, but about 10 years into that, we started doing these leadership institutes, developing the next generation of leaders in the behavioral health field.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and many of them would ask me to be their mentor, and, so I started mentoring them, and I said to my staff then, I said, this Leadership Institute, there's something here, because this is what will keep me here for another 10 years, developing the next generation of leaders. Gloria, it sort of set a fire underneath me. And being willing to open myself up, be completely honest and transparent, and not be afraid that they were going to say things to me like my nephew did. You're not listening to me. I had to open myself up and be willing to hear from them. And then there was an example in this national network of directors that I was a part of, and the next generation said to me, I want to stay, but there are so many of you directors aren't retiring yet, and you keep telling us that we have to pay our dues and wait until you retire, and then we can take charge and be in a leadership role. And I thought about that, and I said to my other co-directors, I said, you know what? We don't have to retire to open the door for them. We can move over. We can share this leadership role while we're here, so we can work with them, develop them. I'm telling you, they're going to help develop us and make us even better. So this thing of moving out and passing the baton, we can share the baton, Gloria. I think we need to start making room for the next generation to partner with us. So I do a lot of partnerships with many from the next generation in my business. Most of my partnerships, Gloria, quite honestly, have been with people who have these big dreams. They're in their 30s and 40s, and they're looking for me and wisdom and what I'm doing, and I'm looking at them because I'm trying to reach the next generation. So I had some people and some experiences that would stop me dead in my tracks and make me say, this is what's in my heart. That Leadership Institute was a biggie. That was a biggie because I stopped at that point and said, developing the next generation, and it doesn't just need to be for a specific industry or field, but developing the next generation is where I'm headed. That's my purpose. It was when I was a child, so my purpose was getting more and more clear. And, when you get that clear, you start reading different things.
Yeah.
And you seeing different things. One person once, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I was reading. And so this quote, Terry Tempest, is sort of my mantra. She says it all in a nutshell. Her quote says, the eyes of the future are looking back at us and praying that we will see beyond our own time. So the future is saying, Lonnetta, see beyond you. So when I connect with the next generation, everywhere I look, Gloria, what I read, quotes, who I partner with, and when there was this young African-American man that saw me on a panel, a business panel, and he's 21 years old, and he came up to me at the end. He said, I heard everybody, and I'm looking for a mentor. I'm 21 years old. I've got this business, and I wonder if you would be my mentor. Gloria, he's 21 years old. He's phenomenal. But the fact that he asked me and that I was able to present in a way that connected with him was just phenomenal.